evening, YouTube. You guys are now watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Today we're going to be going over the Deskbot deck profile. I really feel like this is one of the top decks of the format, as you guys can see in my previous video. And if you haven't watched my previous video, you can always check that out at any given time. But let's get down to the deck profile. It's going to be short, sweet, and simple, or as short and sweet and simple as I could go. We're going to go 3 copies of Deskbot 5, 3 copies of Deskbot 6, 3 copies of Deskbot 4, 3 copies of Deskbot 3, 3 copies of Deskbot 2, 1 copy of Deskbot 1, and 2 Max Cs. That's going to sum up the monsters. I really feel like everything in here is very standard. You don't really want to play anything less than 3 copies of every single Deskbot, for the exception of Deskbot 1. And the reason behind Deskbot 1 is that, first of all, you can't even pendulum summon it. Second of all, it's searchable. Third of all, its effect isn't that great compared to all of the other Deskbot's effects. All the other Deskbot's effects are pretty A1 other than that. Maxi is definitely against different meta matchups. There's Magic Specters, there's Cosmos, and then there's just a lot of other decks I like to special summon, and we need to get into our combo pieces as soon as possible, so that's why Maxi is a very viable card, and especially over other hand chops such as Effect Veiler, because, I mean, Maxi is just really good. For spells, 2 copies of Instant Fusion, 2 copies of Machine Duplication, Limiter Removal, Book of Moon, Raigeki, and Soul Charge. Now, a couple of these cards really were afterthought decisions, but I still feel like they were really solid. Instant Fusion is definitely a card that we can debate on for hours, mainly because I play enough spells and trap cards to accumulate to 8,000 life points paid on any given time. But the reason behind that is because it really doesn't matter, since this deck can OTK at any given time. If you're paying those life points and not losing the game on that turn, then you're probably going to OTK them, you know, furthermore, or, you know, your next turn after, or on that turn, or, you know, set up a really nice board that your opponent can't overcome. With that being said, I really do like Instant Fusions because you do have your Deskbot 4 as a target. You also have Deskbot 3s as a target. And if you couple it with Deskbot 1, you can always go into a synchro play or whatever you have to want to go into. Granted, the monster is banished, but who really cares? You're going to be winning anyways. Machine Duplication, there was a point in time where I actually wanted to run 3 just because it's a really good OTK card. And the next thing is that it gets your Deskbot 6s and your Deskbot 5s effects. And on top of that, you get to special summon almost every monster in your deck, for the exception of Maxi on Deskbot 1 to your side of the field, because you obviously only play one Deskbot 1. Limiter Removal is a card that you actually could drop if you wanted to. My only reasoning behind it is because, first of all, I didn't want to play 7 spells. I like keeping even numbers. And then secondly, I can put 4,000 attack points on the board through 1 monster. Limiter Removal will make it 8,000. So, you know, it is what it is. Book of Moon, Raigeki are obvious, and Soul Charge, I don't know. If I'm going to be running Call on it, I just thought Soul Charge was, you know, just as good. It does allow me to set up some really nasty boards that my opponent can't overcome. Next, for traps, is 3 copies of Fiendish Chain, 2 copy of Mind Crush, 2 copy of Call It a Hunted, 2 copy of Storming Mirror Force, Solemn Warning, Torrento, Forca del Asfajo, and 2 Time Space Trap Holes. This build allows me to be really aggressive and also control the pace of the game as well if, you know, it doesn't come out into my favor. As you guys can see, I have Effect Negation through Fiendish Chain. I have Manipulation through Mind Control. I have Recursion from Call It a Hunted. And a card I really wanted to highlight is Storming Mirror Force and Time Space Trap Hole. Really good against the Cosmo matchup. Really good against just any of the good decks matchup right now. Now, the reasoning behind it is that Storming Mirror Force will put Dark Destroyers, they'll put Forerunners back into the opponent's hand. Not necessarily the best place to put them, but it definitely gets rid of the threat without us having to, you know, lose it to Mirror Force and then them being able to cycle through monsters. Most importantly, though, Time Space Trap Hole is amazing in the Cosmo matchup, because they special summon monsters like Dark Destroyer and Forerunner, and not only do we get rid of the threat, we put the threat back into the deck. That's probably the best place you want to put the threat back into. So Time Space Trap Hole has seen a price increase, and it's just a really good card against the matchup. I still run 1 Mirror Force. I mean, a lot of good players play around this card, but they never really expect that 1 copy, since Storming Mirror Force has definitely taken over as your battle trap card. Solemn and Torrento, we're moving more towards a pendulum format. And Solemn and Torrento are just amazing. I wanted to try actually Bottomless Trap Hole in here, but, you know, I didn't have a room. A couple of cards that a lot of people would probably say something about, but you guys know how it is. Luster Pendulum, the Draco Slayer, and Archfiend Eccentric. Now, I see people's cases between these 2 cards. Luster Pendulum, Draco Slayer, actually I see it even more, because you can set up your scales with Deskbot 5 or Deskbot 6 and Luster Pendulum, Draco Slayer, and then Draco Slayer can destroy your Deskbot monster and then essentially gain their effect and add another one at the same time. Now, the only reason why I don't do that is because, first of all, your Draco Slayer is a rank 5 monster. or it's a scale 5 monster, and so if you do it with Deskbot 5, then you really won't be able to special summon unless it's Deskbot 6. And if you do it with Deskbot 6, while it's good, you really aren't going to be able to abuse the full capabilities of the Deskbot monsters because you'll only be able to add, you know, Deskbot monsters from your graveyard to your hand. So that's subpar. Also, you really can't go into any of your Draco Slayer, Xyz, or Synchro monsters because your Pendulum monsters are a little bit too big. As far as Archfiend Eccentric, this card was almost a shoo-in for this deck. And then I actually read the Pendulum Scales of Deskbot 5 and 6, and it said you can only Pendulum summon Deskbot monsters. And, I mean, if you're going to play Archfiend Eccentric, make sure you can abuse the fact that it is a Pendulum monster and you can special summon it to your side of the field. And, obviously, this deck cannot abuse that, so why even play a card like this? Granted, it is a Mystical Space Typhoon and Exile Force, but I have enough Mystical Space Typhoons and Exile Force within this deck. That pretty much summed the monsters. I guess another card I wanted to talk about that was neat was Transmodify. Mainly because a lot of people do complain about Deskbot monsters not having the same level. Well, Transmodify morphs Deskbot 1 into Deskbot 2, which gains you an effect. Deskbot 2 to Deskbot 3 in case you needed a good strong attack monster on the field. Deskbot 3 to Deskbot 4 in case you want to get rid of any other threat. Deskbot 5 into Deskbot 6 for back row destruction, and it's a Pendulum monster into your extra deck when it gets destroyed. And then Deskbot 5 into Deskbot 6 because, you know, for the exact same reason, and because it's not that bad of a card to have on your side of the field. Ultimately, I decided not to play Transmodify, but if you wanted to, like I said, the instant fusions and the limit removals, and even the machine dupes, none of those cards don't have to be permanent or really pertinent to the strategy. That's pretty much it for the main board. Let's go on to the extra deck. Alright, and before some guy decides to post in the YouTube comment section and say that there's a 16 card extra deck, go to hell. Alright, so anyways, this 16 card extra deck, you guys can wind up cutting up anything that you want to. Like I already said, there's going to be that one idiot in the comment section that says I have a 16 card extra deck because they didn't listen to the video. They just decided to scroll through it and, you know, copy it. Feel free to flame that person if they ever do arise. One copy of Deskbot Jet, Trishula, Stardust Spark Dragon, Black Rose, Barkion, Metaphys, Horus, Adrius, Notoria Beast, and Tatsukuno. That's going to sum up for Synchros. Synchros are very straightforward. The Tatsukuno was just really, really cute. Mainly because you can abuse Deskbot 2, add those monsters to your hand, special summon the Deskbot 1, and then make this, and then use the monsters to your hand for a separate cause in case you can't Pendulum summon anymore. So I just thought that was really cute. That's actually one card that you can take out. Another is Black Rose Dragon because you do commit so much cards to the board. There's also Clear Wing Synchro that you could think about. Stardust Spark Dragon isn't that much of a great card. I guess it protects your Pendulums, but you really don't care, so it's like, you know, it's whatever. Next for Xyz is Honor Art, Castell, Dwellers, Zenmaines, Sky, Cavalry, Centauria, and then of course your two Nodens. So that's pretty much it for the extra deck. It's not really much else to say. It's pretty straightforward. I guess we can go on to the combos. Alright guys, on to the combos. For the people that have already seen my other Deskbot deck profile, you can always just go check on those combos because these are different combos, but yeah, those combos are still pretty viable as well. This one requires Deskbot 1 into your graveyard, which means you could play Foolish Burial because there is times where you really need this card to your graveyard, and then you could always use it for other cards that you would need to your graveyard. You need Deskbot 1 in graveyard, Deskbot 3 in hand, and Machine Duplication. What you would do is you normal summon Deskbot 3. Deskbot 3's effect activates. You special summon Deskbot 2. Normally I get a scale, but it really depends on whatever is going on. So, you know, it is what it is. After that, you Machine Duplication that Deskbot 2. From that, you special summon 2 more Deskbot 2s, and you grab 2 more scales, or you grab a scale and then a monster to special summon. That monster to special summon could be anything. Since 2 monsters were special summon, you can special summon Deskbot 1. And look at here, you have a really neat field to make whatever monster you want to. You can go ahead and make 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, great. You can make that new level 10 guy. Who would have guessed? You can make that level 10 guy. Now, you can even go further if you had a Deskbot 5. You can activate it, activate its effect, destroy the Deskbot 5. And with Deskbot 5, you'll obviously special summon Deskbot 2. And then from your deck, you can still special summon another monster to your side of the field, which could be just about anything. Deskbot 4, I mean, it really doesn't care. You can go on from there, on and on and on. If you actually had a way to put Deskbot 2 into your graveyard, you know, you'd be doing stuff. And then from there, you can still Pendulum Summon, put monsters on the board, and attack for huge amounts of damage. So I thought that that was just a really cool thing about this deck that you could do. It has so many combos like that, and it really didn't require too much setup except for Deskbot 1 in the graveyard. Another combo is the Deskbot 4 combo that I've always raged about. It requires Deskbot 4 in your field, and at least any combination of Deskbot monsters in your graveyard. It really doesn't matter. For this specific purpose, I am going to say it's going to be Deskbot 1. So obviously our opponent must have a monster that we can attack over, so we can activate Deskbot 4's effect. We attack, we send Deskbot 5 to the graveyard, they both activate their effects, yay! Alright, activates effect. You special summon, you destroy an opponent's spell or trap card, and guess what? Look what you can go into. That Deskbot Jet that you've been, you know, raving over, because this card actually is really, really good. So that's just 2 easy ways to get out. One of the hardest cards that people keep on saying that this card is so hard to get out, because it's not that hard at all. This deck is really, really good at making synchro plays, XE plays, and just putting huge monsters on the board that your opponent can't overcome, just like Deskbot Jet. Unfortunately, I only can play 1. Thank you guys so much for watching another segment of The Cali Effect. This has been your best friend, The Cali Effect, over and out.